Khand is a mysterious land to the far east of Middle-earth, only referenced a few times in Tolkien's Legendarium, and not shown in the Peter Jackson trilogy. Much of the Khand lore has been invented in the heads of the Tolkienites around the world. Fortunately, MESBG has a Variegs of Khand faction, with the art style and the war gear borrowing from several Far Eastern factions of the real world. They're a faction that I've never dipped my toe into before, so when I was offered a chance to make a squad for this large collaboration video, we jumped at the chance. I'm Joe from Windrush Wargamers.
And I'm Nick.
And here are the Variegs of Khand. Make sure you check out the other videos in the description, and also make sure you subscribe for more Middle-earth content. The official models are really nice, I have to say, but we do lots of kit bashing on this channel, so we're going to give you two alternatives.
I wanted to mix things up a bit with my warband, so I decided to take inspiration from the world's first wargamer, Emperor Xing Shi Huang, whose name I probably just mispronounced. My warband is a mini concept army, inspired by the Terracotta Army of Xi'an. I had this story in my head of an ancient king who built a terracotta horde. He was entombed alive by the free peoples of the East for his loyalty to Sauron, and reanimated by Khamul to serve him in death. Not exactly book accurate, but I think it's cool. The base miniatures are MESBG's Keshig archers, both mounted and foot, the Keshig king, foot and mounted, and 3 chariots, one of which is the chieftain. Those on chariots are magnetized, so they can be placed on infantry bases if the chariot is destroyed or if they get knocked off. I magnetized the entire floor of the chariot, so I can have them pointing in any direction I want. If you take a look at the real Terracotta Army, you can see several instances where time has worn the soldiers down and they're broken, with weapons and even body parts missing. To replicate this, I use knives and clippers to scrape and chip the surface, as well as damage or remove extremities. The real-life terracotta soldiers are hollow. In places where the gaps are big enough, like faces and neck stumps, I drill down into the sculpt with the thickest drill bit we have, to make the models appear hollow. Because the foot archers are meant to be dismounts of the mounted archers, I tried to match the damage on the mounted models with the foot archers that look the most similar to them. The match isn't perfect, but I like the continuity. The model for the Undead King is MESBG's Keshig King, head swapped with Joe's spare Metal King of the Dead, with the original head's helmet plume. To achieve the dusty look, a layer of the Army Painter Speed Paint Sand Golem was covered in a dusting of crushed pigments. This gives the models a dry, earthy character, which you would expect from something that's been in the ground for 1,000 years. To add some extra colour, the terracotta was painted jade green in places, with the sashes and sashimonos coming in the same pink as Joe's living footman. This gave the added benefit of tying the warbands together. Most of his sakura trees were on my chariots and horsemen. To be fair, their bases are bigger. And here they are. I wasn't sure how the scheme would turn out, but I'm certainly happy with the end result.
And here are my Cardish Warrior conversions, proxies, however you want to say. When inspecting the official models, you can see plenty of influences from Mongolia, China, Japan, and Korea. The miniatures have some plate armor, lots of cloth, sashimonos, which are the flags that are protruding from their backs. I covered this idea first in one of our proxy videos. Check it out in the cards above. In that video, I said you can use 2 peri-miniature kits as a basis for this conversion. The first of which are the medieval Koreans, because they have the correct armor with the robes, and also the metal sashimonos. These were inserted just by drilling a small hole in the back and gluing them in place. But I didn't want to lean too heavily into one culture for this conversion, as I wanted them to look unique. So I picked up a sprue of these steppe warriors from the Mongol Horde range of Fireforge games. As a side note, I was going to use Easterling heads to mix them up, however, the size is actually quite a lot larger for the Koreans. It could be because one's metal and one's plastic, but I decided to scrap that idea. What I did instead is using some of the Mongol Horde steppe warrior heads. These top knotted warriors are very striking on the tabletop. And simply removed the Perry Miniatures Korean head with a saw and glued the Mongol Steppe Warriors head into place. Some of them don't have necks, so I had to sculpt that later with some green stuff. They can take either a 1.5-hand axe or a bow along with their dagger. So I picked the Perry Koreans that either had short swords, aka daggers, or the longer 2-handed glaives that could be used as a 1.5-hand axes. For the bows, I once again used the Fireforge Games Steppe Warriors from the Mongol Hordes range. They come with some great bow and quiver options, really detailed. For the axes, I picked these up from the tabletop 3D printer. These were either very simple hand swaps for one-handed, or I put the axe head onto the top of the glaive to make it look like he's wielding it two-handed. With the models converted, I moved on to painting them. I opted for a jade green and a pink to contrast. I wanted a neutral colour to balance it out, so I decided for a white. For the metallics, I went for a mixture of silver and a kind of brassy gold colour. I wanted the warriors to look like they were marauding around the steppes of Middle-earth. I used some base readies. Once the base ready had set, I used various green tufts to look like vegetation. And on a select few, I decided to add some cherry blossom trees. You can get these in various different colours from Amazon or eBay. I really like the colours, but I wasn't overly fond of the trunk. The trunk is made of coiled wire, so to fix this and to make it look a little bit more like a tree, I bulked it out with some hot glue. I didn't spend too much time on the shaping of the tree trunk, as I wanted this to look natural, and any blemishes I could cover up later with AK Interactive moss texture. To add some variation to the more standard bases, I decided to attach some of the fallen foliage from the cherry blossom trees onto the floor to make it look like fallen leaves. I think they turned out really cool, and the trees are actually not as intrusive as you might think. They can be used to hold the miniature, to make sure that you don't scuff up the miniature or drop them. Also, depending on how high up you take the hot glue, the top of the branches are still pliable, so you can move them out of the way or reposition them to make them look nice. I wanted to add some transfers to the sashimono so it didn't look quite so bare. For this, I actually dipped into the 40k transfers. I had wording from the word bearers, and I also used some of the symbols of the flowers from the Adeptus Sororitas range. I really like the effect that the flowers have, and when cut into vertical strips, the word bearer symbols look like a foreign language. That's the beauty of taking on a project like Khand, because you essentially have a blank canvas to make what you like. I really am chuffed with how these guys turned out. They look very striking on the tabletop, and I think they would marry quite well with the original miniatures, so if I wanted to make more of them, I could just buy some originals. Here is how both mine and my brother's warriors look together. I think they do marry quite well. They may look like a previous culture, i.e. the Wayne Riders, and the more recent culture, which is obviously the Variags of Khan, kind of mixed together, and I think they look really cool and very striking. You've got a concept army and a more traditional army in one. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for watching. Please check out the other creators. They did a really good job at painting up their Cardish Warriors. Check out our back catalogue.
We have dozens of conversion videos, terrain builds, and discussion videos on objective markers, concept armies, and much more.
If you want to join our Discord, it's free. There's loads of good hobbyists in there. I've been Joe from Windrush Wargamers.
And I'm Nick. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one.